this is a probable cause affidavit, and they don't have to lay out their whole case here. They just have to make up probable cause.
They went through a very lengthy analysis of the cell phone. What people have to understand is the cell phone is not like GPS.
That the scientist and the science behind this, when they do match his DNA with the DNA that was found at the crime scene, I think that will be an extremely important step. 51%.
This is Reporter Room with Jessica Della Davies.
Hello, Reporter Room investigators. Come on in, come on in. I'm so glad that you're here. Joining me today, we're going to be talking about the Idaho student case. We're going to be talking about Bryan Kohberger, and we're going to be going through the new information that we have learned from Steve Gonsalves. My name is Jessica Della Davies. I'm an investigative journalist, and my job is to investigate crimes, crime scenes, and potential suspects, and share with you how to do the same thing. If you have not subscribed to Reporter Room, please do like, share, leave a comment, and know that everything I'm sharing with you is my opinion. All right, so Steve Gonsalves said that BK had stopped at the house at least 23 times that we know of. I had already reported that out to you guys. He also said that there's video footage of BK near the house on the days where his phone was turned off. So on the days where he had his phone off, there's other times he was near the house that they have video of him near the house or at the house. So Steve also said that he was definitely surveilling, stalking, whatever word you want to use. Now, we know in Idaho that the legal definition of the statute in Idaho says the victims have to feel harassed and threatened. I don't think, and I've told you guys this before, that these victims knew he existed. So therefore, legally, he wasn't stalking them, but he was surveilling them. He said that law enforcement had checked his bank records to see if he was actually shopping in the area of the victims, because that's what some people claimed. We know that the phone was pinging the majority of the time between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. and that there's not a lot of shopping going on at stores at that hour during that time frame. He said that the coroner said that he did punch Kaylee in the face. He said that for all the people that say he's a great guy, that he said he punched my daughter right in the face. And you could really, it was heartbreaking. There was not an altercation at Sigma Chi. That was all just rumors. So that puts an end to that rumor that there was some kind of altercation, and they're the ones that ran over and did it, not Bryan Kohberger. They talked about Jack D and the phone calls, because there was phone calls. The girls Maddie and Kaylee were trying to get in touch with Kaylee's ex-boyfriend in the hours leading up to it. And he said that law enforcement did get some information, and that the reason that they were able to clear Jack Decor was that his cell phone was moving around. So he thought that maybe the cell phone was in bed with Jack, like maybe he was sleeping with the phone or on the pillow. So every time Jack moved, the phone was moving around a little bit. But that it showed that he was right there in the house. So they were able to clear him. Steve said that that he pointed out that the defense can only have certain kinds of suspects, according to what the judge ruled, and that if they want to bring in alternative suspects, the defense is going to have to show evidence that these people were at the house during that time, during the crimes. Steve also said that the grand jury members had asked the judge if BK ever had a hunting or fishing license since he purchased the K-bar knife, and he pointed this out because he said juries are smart. We learned that Murphy the dog is with Jack Decor. We knew that. Steve also said that whether or not BK was following the girls on Instagram or any other social media, we learned that there was two parallel investigations going on. So this is interesting. The FBI had their investigation while law enforcement had their investigation. The Moscow Police Department and the Idaho State Police and the Pullman PD was also investigating this too. And Steve said that the FBI told them that they had BK both at a state level and at a federal level, and that he did not believe, Steve Gonsalves did not believe, that Bryan Kohberger was going to walk free on some type of technicality. They talked about the Linda Lane footage and the audio. And, it sounds like there was some thoughts that the audio on the Linda Lane footage was digitally altered. And that maybe it was a grab for money. And this is not the first time that we've seen something like this in a case like this. There was another content creator, I'm not going to say who it was, that put out a scream that purported to be an audio that was recorded at the apartment, and even manipulated the audio on that and put it out and purported that that was real, and it was fake. Steve also was calling out content creators who knowingly put out false narratives and misled their followers and subscribers for clicks and views. We've all seen the videos that, claiming there were tunnels under the house. We've all seen the crazy claims that are out there. Steve brought up Shadow Dragon. Now that's the information that I shared with you from last week that showed that Bryan Kohberger was following the victims. If you didn't want to take the mainstream media, that Garrett Discovery information regarding Bryan Kohberger following Maddie and Kaylee on Instagram. And so I did show you guys the receipts on that he was indeed following them. He also talked about the battery life that Bryan Kohberger turned off his cell phone during the time of the crimes. And he said that his cell phone battery had a good charge on it. It wasn't a low battery. So why would you turn off a phone that had a great charge, an excellent charge at the time of the actual crimes? So we have his phone pinging on the way to the crime scene. We have his phone pinging on the way back from the crime scene, but it switched off during the crimes. I think the jury is going to want to know the same thing. Steve also pointed out that stargazing apps are really popular on cell phones and wondered how many stargazing apps Bryan Kohberger had on his cell phone. If the answer is 0, this does not help him. If he has some, it might help him. So I don't know the answer. He also characterized Ann Taylor as being desperate. He said that she was going through tips from when Steve and Christy were giving interviews in an effort to try to find something to use to defend Bryan Kohberger. And, I don't think that's that shocking. I think that, that's her job. So I think she is going to do that. Steve also said that once the jury had been selected and has been seated, that he is going to come on camera and reveal more information because he knows more. But he's waiting until the jury has been seated and, that he's not going to interfere with the trial. Once the jury's seated, then they will agree not to look at any news or information. So he's going to reveal more information once the jury is seated. The jury selection begins July 30th this summer. I'm going to be airing the trial on this channel. So please subscribe and hit the notification bell. And we have another hearing coming up on May 15th. I'm going to be airing that as well if you want to come watch it as part of a true crime community here on Reporter Room. They talked about VPNs, and I had shared this with you a couple of weeks ago that there was a phone ping that proved that it was Bryan Kohberger, and that his phone pinged off a cell tower at around 4:48 a.m. right before the VPN clicked on. And so Steve said that because when you have your cell phone, you have to contract with specific companies like AT&T or T-Mobile, and so that the VPN on the cell phone doesn't mask you like it does on a computer or a laptop. So as he turned his phone back on, his phone pinged. They captured that it was his phone. And then after that, his VPN kicked in. And I reported that out to you a couple of weeks ago. The plea deal, clearly the Gonzalez family, according, from what I heard from Steve, does not want a plea deal. That was very, very evident. He also talked about the fact that there were the noise complaints. And he was wondering who was making all these noise complaints, especially in the daytime. Why was 911 called to the house, to the 1122 King Road home so many times? So Steve was wondering if Bryan Kohberger was checking out to see how long it took law enforcement to show up when a 911 call or a noise complaint was called in. My question is, did Dylan and Bethany feel afraid to call law enforcement because of the noise complaints and because of the agreement that they had with the over 21, because they were both drinking? Is this why they were so afraid to call 911? I think it is. We'll have to wait till the trial to hear what they have to say. So Steve also said that the Reddit survey was done. So this is Bryan Kohberger. We all heard about the Reddit survey. And at the time I said, oh, that, the fact that he's asking questions about criminals and what they were thinking and all that doesn't strike me as that odd. But Steve said that this survey was done after Bryan Kohberger had graduated from DeSales. It was not used in his final thesis. So Steve believes that Reddit survey where BK was asking all of these questions, like, how did you feel about committing a crime? How did you select your victims? He thought that this was for Bryan Kohberger's own personal enjoyment, his own gratification, his own fantasy life, his own use. So I thought that was very interesting. And I'm paraphrasing there. Steve also talked about BK applying for a job with the Pullman Police Department and wondered if BK would have passed a background check. And, he thought that he got into WSU as a teaching assistant because of the pandemic, that background checks were just not being done as thoroughly. A lot of, people were working from home. And I think this is why he did so well at DeSales. This is just my conjecture, but that's why I think he did so well at DeSales. I think he did well at DeSales and didn't have any altercations with females that we know about because of the pandemic. Everybody was online. Steve said that there was another female who had been harassed by Bryan Kohberger, and he said there was, quote, multiple young women that had been harassed by him. So my question is, if he went through DeSales and, without getting any accusations of being harassed, is it because he was doing these online courses and wasn't interacting with any people in person in a classroom? Is this why he had altercations with his professors at WSU, but no reports of altercations at DeSales? Is this how he graduated with a master's degree? Because he was online, not in person, interacting with actual people. Steve also talked about the autism spectrum diagnosis. And he said, this is Steve saying that it came from Bryan Kohberger's mother. That Bryan Kohberger dug through Bryan Kohberger's old records that went back to the 90s and early 2000s to find any information that would help provide information to get an autism diagnosis. I'm paraphrasing here. He said that the family, so I think he's alluding to Bryan Kohberger's mother's here, went to the defense to use these records to, quote, make an excuse for his odd behavior. That was Steve's exact quote. He also said that there was going to be student after student after student, that there was a running tally on Bryan Kohberger and his weirdness and his inappropriate behavior. And so I think this is why Ann Taylor went, with the help of Bryan Kohberger's mother, got this autism diagnosis. And I just want to be clear that someone who is autistic is no more likely to commit a crime like this than someone who is not autistic. So I just want to make that clear. I'm not saying he is autistic or isn't autistic, but the diagnosis did not come until after he was in jail. So it wasn't something that he was diagnosed with in childhood. So I'm suspicious. And Pat Brown, who's a criminal profiler, pointed out that you can find any expert that will testify to almost anything if you pay them. So I'm not saying Dr. Orr is making this up, but if she's just going off of information being provided by Bryan Kohberger's mother, and this is how she's getting to this diagnosis, I don't know what you guys think about that. Steve said there was one female individual who had made a police report and wanted to see if Steve could find out anything about this. It does make me wonder if this is that WSU student that I shared with you guys, where he was tending and befriending this WSU colleague, and that he reportedly staged a break into her house, moved some things around, tended and befriended her, convinced her not to call the police, and that he would install security cameras inside her home. And he then used those security cameras to spy on her. He spied on her using her own Wi-Fi password and security cameras, allegedly, according to multiple journalistic sourcing on that. So it seems like there was a lot going on. So in my opinion, he wasn't flagged at DeSales or removed from classes at DeSales, or had altercations with his professors at DeSales because he was attending his classes online due to the pandemic. And remember, when he moved to Washington State, to Pullman, Washington, to attend WSU, he was away from his family home. Prior to that, he had been living with his parents in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, And he was no longer attending classes online. He was now attending classes in person. So what do you guys think about that? They talked about the sliding patio doors. Were they locked? Were they unlocked? And they talked about the fact that, Bryan Kohberger wrote this how-to essay. And, it just sounds like he, if you can pop a sliding glass door. If you move it in and lift it up, you can pop a sliding glass door. It's probably really easy. I don't know if it was locked or unlocked. But they also talked about the fact that the patio doors were left open. Now, I have a little bit of a different theory than Steve. Steve thought that she came back out, Xana, and saw the door open. I think that's, makes sense. Or she brought that, she had maybe gone to the restroom or something like that. I think if she came out of her room for whatever reason, I think that she would have felt the coldness from the doors being open. It was November. It was cold. And I think she, would have called out, there's someone here. But he also thought that it was Xana who called out, there's someone here. Thank you so much for coming by to spend a little bit of time with me. I can't get to 50,000 subscribers without your help, so please subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Bye.